By now, there's a lot that we already know about the Tata Harrier EV. We know it has dancing and coordination skills so good it might just be a blood relative of Prabhudeva. And we also know that it can pull a literal tank, but big deal. You pull your heavy emotional luggage with you every single day, don't you? And it's also climbed the elephant rock. So if the question was, does Tata Motors know how to market its cars? I think we already had the answer to that. Now, here's everything else you need to know about the Tata Harrier Electric. When it comes to electric car designs, there are two very distinct schools of thought. The first says that electric cars should be designed in a manner that is so drastically different compared to anything internal combustion that you should be easily able to tell that the car is electric before you were to slap on a green number plate. The second school of thought is what we've seen Tata Motors electric cars generally sort of fall into because, of course, they are based on existing products. But here I feel that is the right call, wherein you take an existing bit of design and give it the right amount of tweaks like this closed-off front grille and the redesigned front air dam just to make it look different enough. And I think that's the right call with the Tata Harrier, because standalone, the Tata Harrier is a bit of design that I honestly do not see the need to fiddle with much. Wouldn't you agree? Up top, you will see the connected LED DRLs along with the outer sections doubling up for the indicators. At the bottom, you see these LED projector headlights, which you get as standard, by the way, along with the fog lights at the bottom. And just below them, you have these sporty aerofoils to improve your aerodynamics. At the side profile, we see one of the elements that everybody loves about the Tata Harrier, and that is its size. Roughly 4.6 meters long, so it's very strong on road presence. So much so that even though this car is riding on 19-inch wheels, they look size appropriate, not big, and that is to do not only with the car size itself, but also how chunky the sidewalls are. And that aside, it's not all that easy to tell the Harrier EV apart from a standard Harrier if it weren't for the difference in color option. And of course, you have certain smaller touches like the .EV badging on the door. You also see this side step to improve your ingress as well. And at the rear, it's pretty much standard Harrier fare. So massive connected LED tail lights with a rather chunky cluster here towards the side, dynamic turn indicators. At the lower half, you'll see the rear fog lights that you see on both sides, as well as the reversing light right below that. And like we saw at the front, you also have that sporty little aerofoil that's tucked in there. But bear in mind that those bits are going to be kind of tricky to clean, especially during the monsoons. And the real big difference versus the standard Harrier itself would probably be the Harrier.EV badging. So all in all, it continues with the theme of giving you great road presence that the Harrier always has, with just the right amount of tweaks such that you don't land up missing the sporty, almost coupe-like design that you had with the Harrier as it is. Okay, so like we'd seen with the Tata Safari with the powered tailgate, there's a big recess on the tailgate itself, but the button to open it up is quite small. It's like a fingertip square size. Although the button, once you open it up, is properly sized. I wish it was like this on the outside as well. Would have been easier to find. But anyway, yes, you do have a powered tailgate, and the available boot space that sits at 502 liters, but that is without the parcel tray in place. A certain amount of the space is definitely taken up by the space saver spare tire placed underneath the boot floor, because I don't imagine there's a lot of space underneath to tuck that in. But with this in place, you can get in a full-size suitcase, maybe a soft bag along with that, and if you were to drop the parcel tray altogether, get a couple of soft bags, maybe a trolley bag on top. So certain degree of practicality has been lost compared to the standard Harrier, but it's still plenty accommodating. And if you do need more space, the rear seats are split 60-40. They don't fold down completely flat, but they are in line with the boot floor itself, so definitely usable.
There's a Frunk as well, 67 liters in the rear wheel drive and 35 in the all-wheel drive.
Alright, now let's get into the rear seat space available, and just to give you a quick refresher, Arun is seated in front of me, who is 5'11". 5'11". I am 6.5 feet tall, 6'5", that is 199 centimeters, and behind him my knees are just touching the front seat. The backrest is completely supporting me really nicely. I've got this comfortable little cushion on the headrest as well, and I have a great sense of space available here. So I'll give you a quick shot of what the cabin space looks like for a 6-footer sitting behind his own driving position. And the only real con that you will notice in the Harrier EV versus the standard Harrier is the fact that the seating position itself, it's kind of raised both at the front as well as the rear. So while seated at the rear, yes, I am comfortable, but somebody who is even around 5'10", 5'11", they will find that the under thigh support is lacking by maybe an inch or two. So definitely a slight compromise in comparison to the standard Harrier on that front, but all in all, a great rear seat experience for most users. When it comes to amenities, of course, I get the benefit of the panoramic sunroof. I have got this retractable rear sunshade integrated into the door pad itself. The door pockets are plenty accommodating for a 1 liter bottle, and a lot more than that. You have rear AC vents that are mounted into the pillars, so a more logical placement of the AC vents so I can actually cool myself and not just my knees. And you also have two 65-watt Type-C USB fast chargers available at the rear. As we hop into the front seat of the Tata Harrier EV, there may be something that's already apparent to you. My knee and the dashboard. They've got quite a close relationship right now. So I should explain. The reason why I asked Arun to sit up front initially to show what kind of cabin space is available for people of a normal height is because there has been one con, and that con applies to the exceptions when it comes to cabin space and seating up front. Now, in the standard Harrier, with my seating position, which is the seat all the way down and all the way back, my knee would be sitting somewhere around this portion, like just underneath this portion of the center console, but it wouldn't be making contact with it. It'll get close, but it wouldn't be making contact with it because that is one of those things that they fixed with the facelift in the first place. Now, over here in the Harrier EV, with my driving position, again, all the way down and all the way back, my knee is properly digging into the center console. So for somebody of my height and build, this is definitely going to come as something of a disappointment, because a lot of people who are of this exceptional size look at cars like the Tata Harrier and the Harrier EV and see that that big car is for a big guy like me. So that's something you will have to keep in mind.
And just to be clear, this will be a deal breaker for people who are very tall, or could be an issue even for drivers who prefer sitting closer to the steering.
But that aside, the design of the Harrier EV is fantastic. I love the color combination of ivory, grey and black. Very well balanced out. The quality is top notch. And everything in here just reads chonk. Like big screen, big steering, massive door panels that are nice and chunky, big toggle switches over here. So you definitely get a nice little ego massage with the kind of controls and size of everything that you see on this interior. Although this is the brightest option you will get with this empowered variant, I would say that the version I like the most when it comes to the color combinations is the Adventure, because black and brown is just classic. It just does so well in that context. And even in terms of quality, everything is properly top-notch. So you've got leatherette padding over here on the center console with a little contrast stitching piped into it. You see a similar finish on this side as well, along with this ambient lighting strip that's been very tastefully integrated. You have soft touch materials on the door pads themselves. The steering is draped in this leatherette finish, which again looks borderline Land Rover, Range Rover even. And it's definitely a very premium and top-notch place to be. When it comes to amenities, you've got a 45-watt USB Type-C charger up front, along with a Type-A USB port, wireless phone charger there as well. You have two cup holders over here with a little space in between to tuck in this new circular key, as well as a bottle if you need that. The under armrest storage is also reasonably sized, so you can get your wallets or other items in there. You have a 12-volt charging socket in there as well, along with another USB Type-C and Type-A charging port integrated right into that. Slight adjustable too, so definitely makes it plenty practical. And like we saw at the rear, big door pockets, big glove box, definitely very strong when it comes to practicality.
A big leap ahead though is in the sheer amount of equipment on offer. But
before we get into the rest of the features, let's talk about the three main screens that you have in the Harrier EV. So here I have my regular manual IRVM. Now that I tap this function right here, it's turned into a rear view camera. Now this camera is mounted into the shark fin radio aerial on the roof. So it gives you a better view out the rear. Let's say if you have the rear seat completely occupied, or if you've loaded up the boot completely, don't have the best view out the rear. This definitely helps, and the resolution is also quite on point, although we haven't had the chance to check this out at least at night. How it works is you have these functions right here. So I can zoom in ever so slightly, 1.2x. You can take snapshots right here. You have a QR code which you can scan to access all the information on the data that you've taken on this. And you also have front and rear views that you can shuffle in between. If I get into the settings, they have brightness adjustment, the loop duration, mic and advanced setting. And you might be wondering, why am I talking about loop duration or microphone? That is because this is doubling up as a dash cam. So you also have the front and rear dash cam functions being integrated into this little display. So definitely very, very useful if you want to log in some memories, and definitely when the bad memories happen, at least you can have that stuff on the record as well. There is one problem with the screen though. As you can see, if I tap this now, this is all IRVM. When I switch this on, only this bit is screen. So while I'm driving, if I'm going to use this thing as an IRVM or a rear view, the problem is vehicles that are behind you are being reflected in the regular mirror view and in the camera as well. So right now when I was driving over here, single cars were looking like double up because I was seeing it in the camera view as well as the IRVM. So this integration I feel would have made a lot more sense if the display was covering up the entirety of the screen and not only in this sort of picture-in-picture format. But definitely great integration in terms of quality, and the dashcam function is something I'm obviously going to be a big fan of forever. Then we move down to this, the pièce de résistance, the 14.5-inch touchscreen infotainment system. Now, infotainment is something that Tata has been doing a simply impeccable job on. This is their biggest screen yet at 14.5 inches. And as you can see, like we've seen with the other versions as well, the bezels are really thin. So the integration makes it look like a proper flat screen TV. So very, very premium. But again, the interface is also very sensible, especially if you've been using any Android device, and the response times are great. It doesn't feel glitchy or too data heavy, even though there is a lot of data to go through. Of course, you have wireless support for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Your ambient lighting settings can be accessed through here. Arcade.tv, if you want to use YouTube or any kind of music streaming platform, you have access to that as well. If I type in the Dolby Atmos experience, you can get a view of how good the resolution over here is. Plus, one more thing along with that. So I'm going to hit pause here real quick because this thing is paired with a 10-speaker JBL sound system with JBL sound modes. The sound system is absolutely fantastic. It doesn't matter what genre of music you want to listen to, it does justice to it, and how. And then we come to the 10.25-inch digital instrument cluster. Now, this is something that we're quite familiar with. We've also seen it in other Tata cars like the Curve EV as well as the Nexon. And the integration over here is simply fantastic. Very easy to read, very easy to navigate through, even though it is quite data heavy. Right now, for example, I have Apple CarPlay connected, so I can see Apple Maps on the instrument cluster, but I won't be able to see Google Maps display over here. If I were to tap in through the other displays that you have right here, all steering mounted, control operated, of course, you have the trip info that you can navigate through, including the displayed range. Don't go by the average energy consumption right now, we are on shoot. Here you will see the ADAS displays. So if I were to tap the buttons over here, once we're in motion, you'll see stuff like lane assist activating the green lines on the side, or it'll also show you the distance between the car that you're going to be following if you want to use that. As you can see, I am quite attentive as a driver right now in the car's estimation. There is the TPMS display, and of course driving data that you're going to be seeing in real time, energy flow. So even when you're on the move, you can see in this all-wheel drive version, as you get on the move, if the car is driving its power towards all four wheels or just the rear, as and when it is required. And here you have the media display if you haven't seen it on the touchscreen already. So very, very thorough display, easy to navigate through, and very responsive to use as well. So full marks to Tata when it comes to packaging their infotainment setup.
It's not just about the features, but also how much comes as standard. 6 airbags, tilt and telescopic steering, 18-inch alloy wheels, auto climate control, 10.25-inch touchscreen, a digital cluster of the same size, 6 speakers, and a whole lot more right from the base variant. Higher variants add the panoramic sunroof, dual-zone climate control, wireless phone charging, a BOSS button for better backseat comfort, powered and ventilated front seats with driver memory, ambient lighting, a powered tailgate, sequential turn indicators, front and rear fog lamps, a driver knee airbag, and all the stuff you probably watched the reels of already. Auto parking, remote parking, summon mode, reverse assist, and the like. And before I forget, Tata slammed this one into a deformable barrier too for a full 5 on 5-star crash safety rating from BNCAP.
This is one of my favorite and also not so favorite bits of driving an electric car. The not so favorite bit is obviously because they just run like devices, everything just gets done. There's not much to describe. We're not talking about noise levels of the engine or transmission capabilities. It just works like any remote control car would. The pro of it obviously being that with much smaller, more affordable electric cars that we've seen from Tata, performance, drivability, these things are just not issues. So yes, even with the Harrier EV, if you're looking to do daily city commutes, crawl through traffic, overtake at low speeds, drive on the highway, make high-speed overtakes, cruise between cities, everything is just done like clockwork. There is no figuring it out. It's super easy, super smooth. And as the cars have evolved and Tata's reached the Harrier EV, they've even managed to get elements like your throttle response and regen calibration a lot better. So even if you're driving in eco mode, honestly speaking, you don't need anything much more than that for 99.99% of any of your commutes. And that includes driving on inclines even if you're going with a full passenger load, because there's just that level of responsiveness and performance readily available without having to really dial in a strong throttle input. So these numbers are plenty impressive, but what you need to understand is it's not meant to give you, punch you in the gut, throw you back into the seat kind of performance. So right now in the all-wheel drive, since I do have the option of it, I'm going to switch over into boost mode. And when I punch the throttle going from 70, it's quick, but it's not that dramatic. It doesn't feel like something that's overwhelming. And it's fun, it's enjoyable, but evidently the tuning has been focused more on usability and being friendly for somebody who's possibly never experienced an electric car at all. So definitely quite sorted for family capabilities and drivability, usability, absolutely no issues whatsoever. Now you do get two battery pack options. One is 65 kilowatt hours and one is 75. This of course is the 75. And based on our experience with other Tata vehicles and other electric cars in general, considering the Curve electric with a combined cycle, including city, highway as well as inclines, managed about 380 kilometers with its 55 kilowatt hour battery pack, I'd say that the 65 kilowatt hour Harrier EV will do somewhere in the territory of 420, 430, call it 450 kilometers at a push, probably just in pure city driving conditions without too much AC load. And if you get the bigger battery pack, that you can push to between 450 to 500 kilometers. If you're looking at hypermiling, you'll probably be able to cross that 500 kilometer range number a lot more easily, something we're definitely going to get down to in our drive to that range test. But yeah, 500 kilometers on a full charge should be quite easily manageable, at least with the rear wheel drive version of the Harrier EV. With the all wheel drive, that number might drop by maybe 20 to 30 kilometers in real world conditions. But over and above all of this, what stands out as my favorite bit of the drive experience with the Harrier EV would have to be its ride quality. This is the heaviest Harrier yet because of its massive battery pack. It's running big 19-inch alloy wheels in this top spec version. And even so, we have gone through some basically inexistent roads, a section that would quite frankly be a great testing ground if we had a lunar rover to put a test today. And even so, it is so poised, so controlled and so comfortable that I'm quite frankly surprised by how well it's managed to deliver a great balance. Even once we're out on the highway right now, hitting speeds of 100-120 kilometers per hour, undulations, expansion joints, it manages to take everything in its stride in a great and mature manner. So the ride quality package of the Harrier EV is definitely going to be a strong selling point, in spite of the fact that they've had to put up with a bigger challenge of dealing with an all-round heavier car. So big thumbs up for Tata for pulling that off. And lastly, we come to the ADAS package. Now, much like you've seen with other Tata vehicles, it is quite extensive. So adaptive cruise control with stop and go, lane assist, lane departure warning, blind spot monitoring, blind view monitor that you can either see on the touchscreen or on the instrument cluster, auto emergency braking, collision warning. There's a whole long list. But importantly, all of these features are quite India friendly. So especially if you expect to use your car extensively for highway travels, going between cities, ADAS would definitely be one of those features that I would possibly make a stretch for. because right now, even while giving my drive PTCs, I've just been running on adaptive cruise control, and the calibration is quite smooth and relatively India friendly. It's not going to be perfect. There will be occasions where, by virtue of just how bad our driving conditions are with the kind of people we hand out driving licenses to, that you're going to be caught off guard every now and then. So it's not something that you should put 100% of your absolute trust into. But definitely it takes a lot of fatigue out of daily driving, especially if you're expecting to do long distance travel quite often.
As for charge times, a 7.2 kilowatt AC fast charger can get the battery pack from 10 to 100% in 9 to 11 hours with the 65 and 75 kilowatt hour battery packs respectively. Hop to a 100 to 120 kilowatt charger and you can get from 20 to 80% in about half an hour. There's a bunch of standard warranties too. 8 years or 1.6 lakh kilometers on the motor, 3 years or 1.25 lakh kilometers on the car, and an unlimited kilometer 15-year warranty on the HV battery for the first owner. For a second owner, it's 10 years from first registration or 2 lakh kilometers.
In many ways, the Tata Harrier EV is not only the best Harrier you can buy, it's also the best Tata car you can buy right now. Yes, there are small compromises when it comes to the space and practicality package that make it not so ideal for, well, the exceptions. But for most buyers, it's better on every front, and whatever compromises are there, they're not really going to be deal breakers. With the switch to electric, not only are they giving you a package that's more exciting and more polished to drive, it's also got real-world range that you can actually use in the real world. And the tech package is better than ever, not only in terms of how well loaded it is, but also how well executed every single feature happens to be. So if you are thinking of going electric, you can definitely consider going Harrier as well.